Hello there guys, Daniel Childs back here again. I didn't expect to be making a show on Friday night, but it's a day that ends in Y. I knew Chelsea would have something for me to react to, and that's exactly what has happened in the form of a transfer. And unlike a lot of the transfer business that I've been reacting to so far, I'm going to be a bit more positive about this deal because I do think it could prove to be quite shrewd. Before we get into that, please do hit the like button, subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast feed, thank you for tuning in. Please do leave us a positive rating review if you're listening that way. Get involved in the comments, follow across the socials. With all those cheap plugs out the way, let's get into it. Via The Athletic, David Ornstein, Chelsea have agreed a deal to sign Renato Veiga from FC Basel. Chelsea have agreed a deal around 14 million euros, it is believed, with no sell-on clause. A medical has been scheduled in London, with the 20-year-old Portugal under-20 international expected now to sign a contract until 2032. Then a bit more about the player. What does he do? What position does he play? What could he bring? He's a left-sided centre-back, left-back, or a number 6 in midfield. And Veiga is expected to be used as an inverted full-back and is viewed as a perfect fit for Enzo Maresca's system. He made 26 appearances for Basel in all competitions last season, scoring 2 goals and adding a single assist. And David Ornstein points out here that should this still get over the line, he will join Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, Tosin Adarabioyo, Mark Gu and Amari Kellyman as the new signing so far this summer. And I thought there was some interesting extra info on top of this piece from Liam Toomey about kind of how this is coming about, and also will he fully stay with the first team or will he be loaned out, because it's kind of gone under the radar. So this is what Liam Toomey had to say. Apparently Maresca will assess Veiga in pre-season and judge whether he is first team ready or requires a loan spell to aid his development. He is essentially 1 year behind Ricardo Calafiori, who of course we spoke about the other day, because he's been linked with Chelsea, he's been linked with Arsenal. It's believed that Arsenal are kind of leading the race for him, who of course has become that kind of breakout star for Bologna and has impressed at the Euros. The interesting thing is that Calafiori was at Basel, of course, before he moved to Bologna. So a little bit of interest that Chelsea maybe are buying the next Calafiori kind of a year earlier. So we'll see how that goes over the summer. I think that the first thing to say is, logically, if you're just going based off of what we've heard from the likes of Matt Law over what Enzo Maresca is looking for from players, this player kind of fits the mold. I mean, he clearly is a very versatile player already at a very young age. And the fact that he can play as a left centre-back, he can play in central midfield if you need him to. He can fill in at left-back. He could probably do a left wing-back role. These are all positive things. I think they're things that you just need generally, no matter who the coach is. And the fact that he's already doing that at a very young age at a decent level is quite impressive. There isn't tons of info out there, but I remember saying way back in January that one of the things I wanted Chelsea to try and do with the left-back position, in terms of trying to find a new one, was to try and replicate the business they did with Malo Gusto. Someone who didn't cost the earth, didn't come in with tons of hype, but quite clearly had enough experience under his belt that could progress, could be versatile, very quickly impact things and be a good understudy to the first choice. And I think that Veiga, looking at this, could provide that, which makes it kind of a low risk, hopefully high value signing. I also think just looking at his height as well is a good one, because Chelsea lacked height last season. It was one of the consistent criticisms of Mauricio Pochettino's side. And I think with the additions of both Tosin Adarabioyo and now Renato Veiga, who I believe is like 6'2", so not the tallest player you're ever going to get, but is taller than some of the players we've had in that area before. Absolutely taller than both Marco Correa and Ben Chilwell. That in itself is positive. And I did a quick comparison of last season between Veiga, Cucurella and Chilwell. And unsurprisingly, in terms of aerial duels won, that is one of the areas that Veiga really stands out. He doesn't have tons of info to look at, but listen, I mean, is that anything new when we're looking at transfers around Chelsea players now? I mean, we are buying a lot of players who do need a lot more seasoning, do need a lot more maturity, and do need minutes in the legs. But I think in terms of what the squad actually needs this summer and what you could do in terms of developing a player and still kind of understanding you're not quite sure what you're doing with Cucurella and Chilwell yet. And I think it's a move that kind of allows maybe one of those two more senior players to stick around and remain the first choice, but then also hopefully look at a player like Veiga who, because he's versatile, will get probably minutes elsewhere and hopefully can prove to be like a Gusto or prove to be a young player who could offer a lot more. I think that's what makes, say, the Europa Conference League such a great gift, I think, for Maresca this year, actually, in a sense, is, and especially for those younger fringe players. I think, especially in the group stage, there's going to be tons of opportunity to bed players in and give players that time to kind of get minutes, get a feel for the first team, play actual competitive European football at a decent level that the fans care about. You know, as much as people joke about the Conference League, we all want to be in row claw next May, as many of us can be. So, you know, I think for him, for Veiga, I think if he can stick around, that's going to be a key area where he's going to progress. You know, I think obviously between Cucurella and Chilwell, we spoke about this the other day, that I think, and people kind of already assume this already, if you were just going right now without any form of football under Maresca, which is maybe a little bit naive to do, Cucurella obviously seems to be a more natural fit because he is someone already, we saw it literally at the end of last season with Pochettino, someone who does move into a central area quite comfortably and maybe does fulfill those attributes. I know some of you commented when we spoke about Chilwell the other day that maybe actually Chilwell, maybe we were underestimating him a bit, and actually he's going to prove people wrong. He's going to be one of those people who we walk into the season under a new coach and think actually he's going to struggle, and he does the opposite because there is still a quality player there. So I like that this move isn't like 60 million, you're putting something down and a player's going to come in and be first choice, because I actually didn't think that's what left back needed. I always felt that left back needed just a smart future signing. You know, it's all about context, right? Context is key. It's not that every position needs a 30-year-old or every position needs a 19-year-old or every position needs to be spent on. It's nuance and it's context, and it's looking at each area and saying what's the key I guess requirements or things that we're looking for to improve. I think a taller player, hopefully a more physically dominant one, a versatile one who, you know, isn't going to be hopefully limited by one position and he can fill in hopefully across the season, be that Swiss Army knife that Maresca is looking for, but hopefully compete enough with the players who already have in that position and maybe in time prove to be a lot more than the 14 million or so Chelsea are paying for him right now. So I think also, just before we do wrap up, I think it's a positive that Chelsea have done this so under wraps. I think it's become quite boring now how we see all transfers coming literally a mile away. And sure, I understand that the biggest transfers nowadays, that's what it's going to be like. I don't think you're ever going to see, like, I don't know why this one springs to mind. It's not even a Chelsea transfer, but like a Sol Campbell, for instance, that's always the iconic one when he moved from Arsenal. He moved from Spurs to Arsenal, and it kind of was a surprise. Different time, different era, pre-social media. I think in the social media age, the big transfers and the big things in football, we are probably going to know about before they officially happen. But with this one, I know the club haven't officially announced it yet. He hasn't done his medical yet, so it's not signed, sealed and delivered. But I do like the fact that they've kind of moved in the shadows here, got this deal done, clearly tried to maybe do something with Calafiori, have kind of come to the conclusion that either they can't do that deal or Arsenal are going to get that player. So we'll move somewhere else and we'll look for a plan B or plan C, or actually look at someone and go, okay, right now they're not the player we want them to be, but we're probably saving quite a bit of money here. And if he can prove to be a good player that we can develop, give enough football, in a year's time, in 2 years' time, this is going to look like actually a shrewd piece of business in an area where we do need to invest. So again, you know, it's all about that context, right? And I think in this area, I think hopefully it'll prove to be a good move. And hopefully for Maresca, it gives him an opportunity over pre-season to look at the player, but also give him the type of player he's looking for that can help facilitate what he wants to do at Chelsea. So all round, I think more positive than negative, absolutely. And hopefully for Veiga, he can impress in pre-season and he doesn't have to go out on loan, because, you know, if he does go out on loan, is there then an instinct from Chelsea to maybe go out in the market again and try and spend? So I'd prefer, let's look at this player, let's try and embed him into the first team. I think there's enough football next season to give him that development time, personally, in my opinion. I think that's the case for quite a lot of players. I think the bigger question is not actually Veiga. The bigger question now is between Cucurella and Chilwell and who remains. Let me know your thoughts on that, on the new signing, all of that good stuff. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.